Hello, this is Selki and David Navia from David Navia Drawings. It's my pleasure to welcome you to another drawing tutorial. Today, we are going to get some tips on how to draw dynamic poses. Oh yes, let's see how to make our characters look more powerful, vivid, full of expression and movement. We are going to use Clip Studio Paint and check out wonderful features in the software that optimize our workflow and let us draw way easier. So my first tip is to consider drawing as a sport. Yes, think of it as an activity that you need to keep practicing, hopefully on a daily basis. The more you draw, the more natural it will be for you to have a good sense for posing your characters. And a very important part of any sports session is to start by warming up. So I recommend that you go to Pose Maniacs. Here you will have tons of reference to work from. As you can see, we can select any type of body constitution and gender, and look at the figure from any angle, in tons of awesome poses that have a vivid storytelling to them. My second tip is that you avoid perfectionism. Don't worry about making every single drawing perfect. We're gonna make a drawing following an exercise I learned from a Japanese artist named Manga Materials. In only 15 seconds, we will draw a sticky figure representing the spine, shoulders, hips, arms, and legs. Okay, pretty simple, isn't it? Now, let's make 30 poses like that. I know it looks super simple, but this exercise will let you have confidence in your strokes, develop a sense of proportion, and pose in the figure. Now, after making those figures, let's make a little more complex exercise. Now, we are going to think of the silhouette and volume. And the poses will take 1.5 minutes. So this time we start again by making the sticky figures. And now we add muscles and make the body look more solid and volumetric. We don't necessarily need to have every muscle defined and know anatomy deeply at this time. We just have to make sure we exaggerate characteristics as thick versus thin, straight versus curves, and so on. I'd suggest that from time to time you explore different brushes and see what comes best for you. As you will see, these brushes, link in the description, have different textures and have a unique touch to them that will make the style of your creations. Let's make some drawings like this. The good part of this time restriction rules is that you have no time to refine your drawings, and you eventually forget about having to make every single piece a masterpiece. Let's just enjoy the process and forgive ourselves whenever we feel a drawing is not as great as we want. I highly recommend that every drawing doesn't exceed 1 layer to be done. This will keep things simple and you will focus more on making your poses dynamic. Pose Maniacs is great for this purpose. Every pose in this website expresses a strong feel of movement and action. Let's jump to tip number 3. It's being aware of the action line. So, as you might have heard, action lines are strokes that define the flow of a pose. Let's have a look at some amazing photos from Graphite Studio on ArtStation and visualize the action line holding the pose. You'll see that every dynamic pose has an energetic action line that moves from one way to the other. Let's use this important principle to make some drawings. Yes, dynamic posing principles can be applied not only to human characters, but all kinds of animals, creatures, and whatever subject you choose to show on stage. And now, it's time to jump onto tip number 4. Let's check out some Clip Studio Paint 3D tools that come in handy when we want to create dynamic poses. The first one, named Pose Scanner, allows us to pose a 3D character based on a photograph. To do so, we go to File, Import, Pose Scanner, we hit OK, next we choose a human figure photograph, then we choose what avatar do we want to pose, male or female, and done. As simple as that. Such a powerful tool in our hands. Thank you, CSP, for that one. A great advantage of this process is that we can later change the perspective, view angle, camera settings, and even change the pose as much as we want. So here, I am exploring a new angle based on the initial pose I obtained with CSP Pose Scanner. Once I'm happy with the angle, I will lower down the opacity of the layer and rasterize it. Then, I will create a new layer and draw on top of the 3D reference. So I'm also importing an old drawing I did somewhere in time, and I'm using it as a reference to dress my new pose. So the number one rule here is not feeling 100% attached to the reference. We can take some liberties and change the silhouette, position of some limbs, and we can stylize as much as we want. Less precision and more expression. Now, let's have an overview of another technique. The 3D posing from scratch, using CSP 3D materials. Now, we are going to the body type icon on the right panel, and we'll choose a female character and drag it onto the canvas. We can navigate with our mouse buttons to rotate, move, zoom, and distort perspective with the scroll button. And if we click on the model with our object tool selected, we can access to the gizmos of the character and manipulate them until we get an appealing pose. We can click on the bottom right icon to change the body type settings, such as the height, head to body proportion, and the interface is very intuitive. We can change the outline and shading to make our pose more readable. And we can even play around with constitution variations and access to different hand posing presets. As soon as we are done with the 3D posing, we can draw on top of it and give our character the details we want. And remember, We don't need to restrict our drawing totally to the 3D base. Let's have some creative freedom. Okay folks, so this was my tutorial on dynamic posing with Clip Studio Paint. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something useful to join you on your journey to be a better artist. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.